All right, Alien Earth delivered an episode that gives background to the Maginot, which, if you know your history, the Maginot Line, did it hold? Oh no, it did not. But I guess this is hey, what's another French name we can give our ships? And they went with Maginot because turns out the ship is just as doomed as the line itself. So anyway, this gives you some background and whatnot, and also primarily for the character Morrow to give more details to his motives and whatnot, and some of the knowledge he already had, before the events unfold in the previous episodes. So that's basically the deal. The ship's cruising along. They probably didn't. I don't know if they'll ever fit in an episode. At this point, it would be pointless. Their story is over for the most part. But to show them actually go to the planet where they got these critters, and did they go to multiple planets? Or did they take it from some other base that had it? They show up and everyone's dead. But because that's the thing, is like they were able to capture them, put them in those tanks and everything, and then they lose control. But there's an explanation, and as to how this happened. So there's points for that, instead of just, oh no, everything's going to hell. And it's like, well, that would be stupid how the hell did you ever get these things in the first place? That kind of thing. Where there's some incompetence here that leads to trouble. So there is that. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean the one that screwed up is the one that was in charge of collecting these things. There's a good bit of the crew that stays in the sleep chamber for the entirety of the show. So I don't know. I guess they never got out of there. So they all died. So there's a bit of a little mystery on there. It's almost like an Agatha Christie setup of who's the problem here. The most obvious one, because he's the most obvious. It's like, well, it's not him. And all that. And some of these guys, had this been the whole story of, Alien Maginot, like they could have crafted something, but it would be too akin to the original Alien. So you get aspects of it, so it fits in with tributes to Alien and all of that, which the aesthetics of which and everything, they've got that down pat. They've done it very well all throughout the series. So for the most part, it's a pretty cool show, especially since you're getting action in space. It's a spaceship. It's what you're used to with Alien. So they give you that. And it also sets up the overall narrative and how things, it does a great deal of explaining the first episode. Not nearly enough, especially when it comes with the kids and everything, throwing them in there and all that. Certainly the interest in the experiments they're doing on them. But this was all well in advance. There was knowledge of this and all that. So it plays out there. And as Morrow turns out, I thought he was the captain from he wasn't. He's the chief of security, but as the protocols and rules fall into place, he takes charge. Too late in the running of this. There is one character who's in charge, and she's adequate to it, but she's no Sigourney Weaver. The acting prowess with her is not up to par with the other players here. And there's even scenes where she's being chased by the xenomorph, and you've got to get this right, and they don't. It's not too bad. I've seen far worse. Obi-Wan with poor little Leia, they shot that all bad. Doctor Who in the minefield episode was shooting out. That was terrible. So when you got someone running, you've got to, make it credible for what your setup is. There's no way she outruns this xenomorph. There's no way she gets away from it as much as she does. Yet she does. And it's like, well, look, you got to have something that stumbled the xenomorph or something of that nature. And then while she's running, it's just, oh no, I'm being chased. It's, yeah, come on. You know, that's not hard to figure out. But there it is. Yeah. So little things like that, for the most part, it's taking you through the motions of what you've seen before, you know, but they do it okay. And you've got your different characters. They flesh out their personalities and whatnot. And the poor bastard who gets infected here, you know, and that sort of thing, and all of that. But there's more intriguing things is, of course, the other critters. Most notably is Itopus. We see more of him. There's the other ones that are just full-on parasitic, I don't know, snails without the shell. I don't know what they are, but I don't want them on the ship. But anyway, Itopus, and even from the previous one, indications that Itopus is far more intelligent than you would think. Now, it's intriguing because he's so small. You know, at least Xenomorph is, you know, big. You know, it's some guy in a suit. And they do. It's obvious these are some practical effects they did, which they did very well. And it works, you know. And that's the thing about practical effects versus CGI and all that. Or today, whatever you want to call it. But when you combine the two, when the CGI is to finesse something, that's where it works very well. So they got that going. But nevertheless, Xenomorph is practically, you know, human size with all the extra parts of the suit and everything, making him much bigger than people and all that. But it just looks so much more impressive. But at the same time, he's got enough in that room in that noggin to have more of a brain. Whereas Itopus, he's really little, you know, and yet this little eyeball guy is really smart. And you know, you saw some of that in the previous episode, indications of it, where it's very creepy when they're experimenting on the sheep and he takes it over and then he's looking at them very closely, you know. So what's he up to? There's indications here that, look, he's an alien creature and all this sort of thing, but he might not necessarily be a villain in this. I don't know. He's certainly not in league with the Xenomorph. And there was an immediate adversarial reaction there that's displayed in it. So it's interesting, you know, is this creature familiar with Xenomorph? It seems to be. There's an interesting thing that he does, or it does, and that sort of thing. For a moment, I kind of wondered if Morrow had an Itopus in one of his eyes and we didn't know it, and that would be kind of, but every time you see it, you know it's in there. Hey, well, you got a little inflammation there in the old eye socket, huh? So yeah, it wouldn't work, but now it's him full on, and they give more background to him to explain his motives and pretty much what you could have guessed at, and some of which he spelled out in the previous episode. So you get more of that here in that. But yeah, Itopus is becoming one of the major stars out of the extra critters that are added in to alien lore as a result of this show. And there's a cool scene in the lab with Itopus and another species, the parasitic snails, like, I don't know what to call them. And they called them ticks. I mean, I guess they're young or small enough to be like ticks, but I don't know. But some of the crew are very sloppy and rather foolish. And hey, Wayland Yutani, you get what you pay for, you know. Others are more professional. As far as the captain, well, you never get to see what kind of guy he was. I'll leave it there. There's a few things here and there. They do smoke a lot in the ship, and this is one of those things where some amount of explanation I would think would be required to how are they able to do that? And because you're in a spaceship, it's oxygen rich atmosphere. Yeah, they figured out a way to do the pseudo environment of the ship and whatnot. But nevertheless, overall, is an exciting episode because there's a lot going on, and it's more of what you're used to from Alien. But at the same time, it has its overall, it's explaining and revealing things. So now, this is that, this is how he knew that, all that kind of stuff, and why it ends up where it is. It's the only way. The idea that he would intentionally do it like that, well, he didn't. It was not supposed to go to, Prodigy's property and all that. But somebody wanted it to. You can guess who, but nevertheless, there's the whole thing laid out. A few stumbles here and there, but not enough to derail it. All in all, pretty good episode. I mean, I'll see what everybody else says on it, but I don't know if best wait till the whole season's over to say which was the best episode and that sort of thing. A couple of them have their own takes to it. The previous one, I heard a lot of people say it was slow and stuff, but I thought it still had enough intrigue to it that I didn't really have that big of a problem with the slowness to it, because there was a lot of interesting displays there on it. Here, well, things ramp up, they're in trouble, they screw up here and there, and also there's an enemy on board, and so on and so forth, and it unfolds for the most part credibly in that. There's not a whole lot of missteps as far as that goes. Still taken aback about smoking cigars and cigarettes on spaceships, but I guess they figured that out. You just gotta guess, because it didn't blow up, at least not like that. So and the ship, because it looks a lot bigger in this way, but I guess maybe it split off from it, and that's how. But anyway, could be wrong about that. But it fulfills the entirety of the Maginot story, and off you go for the rest of it. Why do it like that? I don't know. I mean, I guess if they'd opened with it, they're introducing you to this whole cast, and then they wipe them all out except one, or a few others if you want to include Xenomorph and Octopus. Octopus survives, Xenomorph doesn't, because Wendy whoops its ass. So, I wonder if Octopus is like, yeah, good going, Wendy. I didn't like that guy. So, Octopus. So, I guess look forward to this Christmas to some Octopus stocking stuffers. Be more appropriate for Halloween, but there'll be some of those around, I'm sure. I don't know if they'll have like the bloody kitty cat with the eyeball falling out and all that. Oh, Octopus, you did it to Fluffy, that kind of thing. But anyway, it's an okay episode. It's pretty good. So, Alien Earth in space, no one, the rest. Oh yeah, I forgot one particular scene I had a problem with in it as I was leaving with all praise, because there's a lot of stumbles in here, so on and so forth. The Xenomorph chasing the new captain and all that, and they didn't shoot that well because there's no way she could have escaped it. But the scene in which they attempt to save the apprentice in the sick bay, and the two doctors, I guess, are working on him, and they cut him open, and they decide they're going to go ahead and remove these parasites, And as soon as they do, the parasites fart on them. This green gas comes out, and they immediately begin to cough, choke, and start bleeding out of their eyes and collapse and die. So what's their mistake? They're not wearing masks. And in fact, during the procedure, the doctor, the guy, he pulls out a flask and takes a swig after he was fooling with the guy's guts and everything. Really stupid, you know. And the original alien, Dallas and Ash, are both there dealing with Kane, and they're wearing masks because they don't know what this is. They don't know what the facehugger is. This could be very dangerous, and we don't know, you know, how much contact we should have. They're taking a risk even with that. But they had the masks on. For whatever reason, these two scientists just, oh, oopsie, forgot. How do you forget that within the shooting of your show? It's a problem. You know, they're trying to recreate Alien and all that, and you know, I get it. And you do a little mini Alien movie within the show. It's nowhere near on par with the original, but the aesthetics do look like it. But stuff like that, I'm like, how do you not think that through? I don't know. It's too bad because other scenes are pretty cool. There's a lot of things they did think through here. But it's things like that. It just would be blatantly obvious, and yet it's missed. Anyway, always mask up when you're dealing with, you know, alien parasitic farts. They're nasty.